Hi, community group leaders and teachers. I hope you all are doing well and having a fabulous day. Hey, I'm excited to introduce to you this week's Leadership Minute. This is one more tool that we can have in our tool belt to lead more effectively. This week, I want to talk all about momentum. Both how do you get momentum for your group, how do you keep momentum for your group, and how do you build momentum when you feel like you're having to build things uphill, especially in the middle of a pandemic. What are some good practices that you can throw in to help your group grow and add momentum and almost where you don't necessarily have to manufacture anything, where you can let it go and let God do His thing. Well, a couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to drive on a famous highway in Arizona called the Beeline Highway. In Arizona, this highway actually goes from about 11,000 feet above sea level to about 5,000 feet above sea level over the course of about 50 miles. That's a pretty steep grade to get from one to the other, even over 45, 50 miles. And one thing this freeway is famous for actually is being able to coast, where you can literally throw your vehicle into neutral, whether you're driving a smart car or you're driving a big truck or anything in between, and because of gravity, because of the steep grade of it going downhill, you could literally let your car coast even up to 90 or 100 miles an hour without any fear about having to use more gas. Your car literally gets like 100 miles to the gallon because it's not burning a lot of fuel while it's going downhill. Police officers love that road because they love to catch people speeding going downhill very fast, but it's an easy road to gain momentum naturally without having to do anything, without having to burn extra fuel. I believe the same can be true for us, that we can create space in our groups where we can get such radical momentum where it doesn't require a lot of effort on our part after a while to allow the group to continue to grow and feel like it's sinking and having success. And so what are a couple of practices that are successful for that? Today I want to talk about two, and then over the next couple of weeks we'll digest a couple of more individually. Today, the first one I want to talk about is pastoral care, calling members of our group. If you're not in the habit of doing so already, I want to encourage you today to start picking up the phone and start calling everyone in your community group, everyone on your roster, whether they show up every week or they don't. Make it a habit of calling people on your roster every week. Doing so, touching base with them, will let them know that you care about them, that you're invested in them, and that you genuinely are looking out for their best interests. Now, when you call them, I want to encourage you, pray for them. Encourage them. Ask them how they're doing. Ask them what you can be praying for. Write that down. And then the following week, when you call them to follow up with them, find out what's going on. How are things working well? Now, if you happen to be in a large group like Adult 5, I encourage you split that list up so it's not you alone making that phone call, because there are some of our groups that have a lot of people on our rosters, some that have a few. But when you make those calls, be very just diligent in asking how people are doing, asking what you can pray for, and pray with them over the phone. While you're on the phone with them, as your parting thought, be sure to remind them, hey, don't forget we're meeting again this Sunday. We're meeting in our room at 9:45 a.m. or we're also happen to be meeting on Zoom, so you can connect with us there, or however you're connecting with your group, whether it's all digital, whether it's a hybrid or whatever. Be sure every week to invite them and remind them that you care about them. That, in and of itself, that pastoral care of being concerned for their well-being by praying for them, but also inviting them to the group, is one way you can build momentum. Another thing is that you can create some sort of monthly gathering outside of when you normally meet, a pattern outside of that, where you say, hey, let's have a party. Let's have a party at a park where we can be socially distant and spaced from each other, but we can also maybe bring your own meat and we can have not a potluck, but we can have a party, or we're having a fellowship together, we're breaking bread together, we're having some kind of gathering where we get to meet face to face. Especially in the middle of a pandemic, so many of us are hungry for relationships. And so if you can create a space or find a space to do so in an environment where people aren't going to feel pressured to be right next to anyone else, in a space where they can still wear a mask, still be socially distant, but see other people's faces face to face, that would be a good thing. And that's another great way to build momentum for your group. And then while you're there, number one, make sure that at least a couple of people break into smaller groups and pray for each other, because people are desperately hungry for a sense of community or sense of belonging by praying for each other. But then number two, remind people, by the way, we meet together every week at this time, at this location, either in person or online, and make sure that the offering is available. So doing those two things, making phone calls weekly, and then planning some kind of a gathering even if it's a socially distant gathering, will create space to start building momentum. Those are two roads that I would suggest can start you on the path towards building momentum for your group. Now, if you have any questions about those, or maybe you want to talk about those, or you have other ideas, please feel free to reach out to me. I would love to discuss a little bit more about what's working well for your group and offer you some more ideas on how you can grow even in the midst of a pandemic. I hope this has been one more tool that's been helpful and good for you as you grow as a leader. Hey, blessings, friends.